I was standing in his apartment doorway, watching my sister kiss my boyfriend. Not a peck on the cheek, not a friendly hug. A full, passionate kiss, the kind he used to give me. And when they finally pulled apart, she looked over his shoulder, made direct eye contact with me, and smiled. That's when I knew this wasn't an accident. This was planned. This was calculated. And my own sister had orchestrated the entire thing. I'm going to tell you exactly how she did it. The lies she told, the evidence she manufactured, and what I did when I finally figured it out. Trust me, you'll want to hear how this ends. My name is Emma. I'm 27, and until 6 months ago, I thought I had the perfect life. I'd been dating Ryan for almost 3 years. We met at a friend's birthday party, and from the first conversation, I knew he was different. He was kind, genuinely funny, and he looked at me like I was the only person in the room. We moved in together after a year, and honestly, I thought he was the one. I'd started looking at engagement rings online. I'd pictured our wedding. I know that sounds naive now, but back then, everything felt so right. My sister Chloe was 24, and we'd always been close. Or at least I thought we were. She was my maid of honor at my best friend's wedding. We texted every single day. She'd come over to our apartment for dinner at least twice a week, and Ryan always made an extra effort to cook her favorite meals. He treated her like the little sister he never had. I loved watching them joke around in the kitchen while I set the table. It felt like family. But looking back now, I can see the moments I should have questioned. The way she'd touch his arm when she laughed at his jokes. How she always seemed to need his help with something. Fixing her laptop, moving furniture, changing a tire. And how she started dressing differently when she knew he'd be around. Tighter clothes, more makeup. I told myself I was being paranoid. She's my sister. He's my boyfriend. These are the two people I trust most in the world. The problem started in March. Ryan came home from work one evening and he was quiet, distant. When I asked what was wrong, he said we needed to talk. My stomach dropped. He told me that Chloe had called him that afternoon, upset, saying she needed to tell him something important. She'd seen me at a coffee shop downtown with another man, not just having coffee, holding hands across the table, laughing, looking intimate. I was so confused I actually laughed. I told him I hadn't been downtown in weeks. I'd been working from home on a massive project deadline. But he showed me a photo on his phone, a photo Chloe had sent him, and there I was. Or at least it looked like me. Same hair color, similar jacket, sitting across from some guy I'd never seen before in my life. That's not me, I kept saying. Ryan, that is literally not me. But the more I insisted, the more defensive I sounded. He wanted to believe me. I could see it in his eyes. But the photo existed. Chloe had sent it. His girlfriend's own sister had provided photographic evidence. Why would she lie? That was the first crack in our foundation, and Chloe knew exactly how to widen it. Over the next month, there were more sightings. Chloe would text Ryan, always concerned, always reluctant to share, saying she'd seen my car parked outside a hotel at lunchtime, that she'd run into my coworker who mentioned I'd been taking a lot of personal calls at work, that she'd found a receipt in my purse. She'd borrowed it one day, she claimed, from a restaurant Ryan and I had never been to together. Every single story was a lie, but they were detailed lies, specific lies, the kind that are hard to disprove. Ryan started pulling away. He stopped saying, "I love you" before bed. He'd check my phone when I was in the shower. We'd have the same circular argument every few days. Me crying, insisting I wasn't cheating, him wanting desperately to believe me, but unable to ignore the mounting evidence his judgment told him was real. And through it all, Chloe was there, supportive, concerned. She'd text me saying, "I'm so sorry Ryan's going through this. I hope you guys can work it out." She'd call him to check in and see how he was handling everything. She even suggested couples therapy. She was playing both sides perfectly, and I had absolutely no idea. But that wasn't even the worst part. In May, Ryan told me he needed space. He said he loved me, but he couldn't keep living in a relationship where he didn't trust me. He moved out. Not permanently, he said, just for a few weeks while he cleared his head. I was devastated. I spent 3 days on my couch, crying so hard I thought I'd be sick. I called Chloe, sobbing, and she came over with ice cream and wine and held me while I fell apart. "He'll come around," she whispered. "Just give him time." What I didn't know was that she'd gone to his apartment that same night, brought him dinner, sat with him on his couch, and told him how sorry she was that her sister had hurt him so badly. She told him he deserved better. She told him she'd always thought he was too good for me. And then she kissed him. He didn't kiss her back that first time. He told me that later, and I actually believe him. He was confused, guilty, and he asked her to leave. But she'd planted the seed. Over the next 2 weeks, she kept showing up, kept messaging him, kept reminding him that she was there and I wasn't, that she'd never hurt him the way I had. Ryan didn't tell me any of this was happening. In his mind, we were on a break. Technically, we weren't together. And my sister, my own blood, was offering him the comfort and attention I apparently wasn't capable of providing. I found out by accident. I'd driven to his apartment one Thursday night because I couldn't take the silence anymore. I needed to see him, to try one more time to make him understand that I had never ever cheated. I had my key, he'd never asked for it back, but when I got to his door, I heard voices inside. Laughing. I knocked instead of using my key, some instinct telling me not to just walk in. When he opened the door, I could see over his shoulder into the living room. Chloe was on his couch, barefoot, wearing one of his hoodies. There were takeout containers on the coffee table and a movie paused on the TV. It looked domestic. It looked like a date. And then she stood up, walked over to where he was standing and kissed him, right in front of me, on purpose. That's when she looked at me and smiled. I don't remember what I said. I think I screamed. I know I cried. Ryan looked horrified, genuinely horrified, but he didn't push her away fast enough. The damage was done. I drove home in a blur, and that night was the lowest point of my entire life. I'd lost my boyfriend and my sister in the same moment. The two people I loved most had betrayed me together, and I didn't even understand why. What had I done to deserve this? But somewhere around 3 a.m, the grief turned into something else. Anger. Cold, clarifying anger. I started going through everything. Every message Chloe had sent, every photo, every story, and I started to notice inconsistencies. The coffee shop photo she'd sent Ryan, I looked closer and realized the woman in it wasn't wearing my necklace. I never take off my necklace. Ever. It was a gift from our grandmother. Chloe knew that. I reverse image searched the photo. Nothing came up, which meant it wasn't a random stock photo. So I zoomed in on the background, looking for any identifying details. And there, reflected in the window behind the table, I could just barely make out a figure taking the photo. Someone with long, dark hair. Chloe's exact shade. She hadn't seen me with another man. She'd staged the photo with a friend or an actor, someone who looked enough like me from a distance to be convincing. And what I did next? Most people told me I'd gone too far. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I called Ryan and asked him to meet me. Just the two of us. No Chloe. I told him I had proof, and I needed him to see it before he made any permanent decisions about us. He agreed, reluctantly. I showed him everything. The reverse image search, the missing necklace. I pulled up my work logs, showing I'd been on Zoom calls during the times Chloe claimed I was at hotels. I showed him credit card statements proving I'd never been to that restaurant. I walked him through every single lie, methodically, like a lawyer presenting evidence. And then I showed him the text messages I'd found on Chloe's iPad, the ones she'd left at my apartment weeks ago and forgotten about. Messages to her best friend, detailing the entire plan. How she'd been in love with Ryan for over a year. How she knew the only way to have him was to destroy his trust in me first. How she didn't feel guilty because Emma has everything and I deserve something good for once. Ryan's face went white, then red. Then he started crying. He drove straight to his apartment and told Chloe to leave. She tried to deny it at first, but when he confronted her with her own messages, she broke down and admitted everything. She actually tried to justify it, said she loved him more than I ever could, that they had a real connection, that I'd never appreciate him the way she did. He told her he never wanted to see her again. Then he called me and apologized for 2 hours straight, begged me to take him back, swore he'd never doubt me again. I didn't take him back, not right away. I needed time to heal from what both of them had put me through. Ryan had believed lies about me instead of trusting the woman he'd spent 3 years with. That hurt almost as much as Chloe's betrayal. But 6 months later, we're trying again. Slowly. With actual couples therapy this time, not just Chloe's manipulative suggestion. He's doing the work to rebuild my trust, and I'm learning to forgive him for being human and fallible. As for Chloe, I haven't spoken to her since that night. She tried to apologize once, over email, but it was full of excuses and justifications. My parents think I should forgive her because family is family, but I don't owe her forgiveness. She didn't make a mistake. She launched a calculated, months-long campaign to destroy my relationship so she could take my place. That's not a sister. That's a stranger. I learned something important through all of this. Trust your gut. When something feels off, it usually is. And the people closest to you are capable of the deepest betrayals, but you're also capable of surviving them. I'm still here. I'm still standing, and I'm stronger than I ever thought possible. If this story resonated with you, subscribe. I share a new story every single week. And drop a comment below if you've ever been betrayed by someone you completely trusted. You are not alone, and you will get through this.